How's it going, y'all? Titans Fan 920. Today we're back. We're finally here, and today it is finally time. Theros spoiler season is over. We have all the cards revealed now. The Bruin cap has been on for me for about a week now, honestly. I've already been putting together decks as we go and changing them as new cards have been spoiled, which has been a challenge because I've been having some decks I thought were okay. Then a new card would come out and I want to make an adjustment there. So let's go ahead and get into it. Before we start, just thank you everyone for the support on the channel over the past few months. It's been great. Looking forward to this. What we got today, 10 different decks for standard. I have a devotion deck of each color, and then 5 other decks of various different archetypes. These may not be the most competitive in the world for some of them, but I do think it's stuff that you can expect to see on the ladder at some point. I feel like people are going to be trying these kind of decks when the season's early and nobody knows what to play, so if you're looking at what you may be looking for an idea of maybe what you'll be playing against here early on, or maybe you're looking for an idea yourself, you want to try some of these, feel free to go for it and take it. My Bruin cap's on. Are these good or not? Who knows? We'll see. But I had a lot of fun making them. So let's get to it. Let's go! Alright, so the first deck of the day here we have is Simic Ramp with some new cards in Theros. So Simic Ramp, already existing archetype in the format, you know, everybody, Simic Ramp's been doing well and put up numbers. We have some new weapons in this thing that I'm really excited to try and just see how it goes. So to start off here in the 1-drop slot, we got a playset of Arboreal Grazer. Not exciting card on his face there, but I think anytime you can get a green accelerant for 1, that can't be frowned down upon. And Arboreal Grazer is one we're playing 28 lands in the deck. Maybe need to be 29, honestly. But we're trying to make sure we have that massive land so we can always hit this with Grazer on turn 1. That way, we can play Gilded Goose also, but with the number of stuff running around that can kill it, we'd rather not risk that. So we're going straight from Grazer into the 3-drop slot here. 4 Hydroid Traces, we'll get that later. In the 3-drop slot, we got a bunch of cards here that are cool. So 4 of Risen Reef, nothing you haven't seen before. This is a card that can come to the battlefield, trigger, hit you land right away, and there's a few other elementals in the list here that can trigger it. For new cards here, 4 Dryad of Elysian Grove. For anyone who hasn't seen this, 2 and a 4 for 2 green. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. Lands you control over every basic land type in addition to their other types. This plays very well with Nissa, which we'll see later. And just being able to play an extra land every single turn means that flood you're having all of a sudden is just pumping you out stuff to play really fast. And a 2/4 body on its own, a 4 body or a 4 butt on turn 2 is pretty good. I'm going to hold the line back against most things. We are also playing a playset of Euro Titan of Nature's Wrath. Titans Fan 920 over here. I like me some Titans, and this one is sweet. That artwork is sweet. A 3-mana 6/6 is sweet. For anyone who hasn't seen this, these Titans basically, when they first come on the battlefield, they just get sacrificed right away and go to your graveyard, but they provide some value. So this one, when it comes to the battlefield, anybody who hasn't read it, whenever Euro enters the battlefield or attacks, you gain 3 life and draw a card. Then you may put a land card from your hand into the battlefield. What are we doing now, Wizards? This is so strong. This is so good. You can escape it for 4. The same thing happens again, and then you get your 6/6 that stays, and then every time you attack, that same effect is happening. Pretty insane. Now, this is a legendary creature. We're playing 4 of it. However, just getting one of these to stick on the battlefield is hardly going to happen. So we're really playing this 3-mana part as a kind of a ramp spell here, one that can just pay off later. So really excited to try this thing out and get it going. So that's all we have in the 3-drop slot there. We have some mass manipulation up at the very top because we have some ways to kind of just make this go off and be completely insane. Take some creatures. 5-drop slot here because the goal in this deck is to go 1-3-5. If you have the perfect draw there, and which is pretty reliable for the most part, I would think. Never played with it, so we'll see. 4 of Nissa, Who Shakes the World. This card's still an all-star, still an amazing format-defining card. Nothing has really changed there. Dryad of Elysian Grove, making everything a forest is kind of nuts. That makes your mass manipulations and all of your X spells super crazy. We have a 4 of Cavalier Thorns here, just another way to get some mana down early. Guarantee a good body, a land drop, a way to bring back your Dryad or Risen Reef if it gets taken care of. Or you can bring back your Euro, even if you just sack it again, get that card draw and everything. A really good strategy there. Agent of Treachery in this deck, a lot of decks, this is a 7-mana card. I feel like we're going to be playing this one a lot earlier here in this one. And finally, lastly, Nyx Bloom Ancient. 7 mana. Yeah, 7's expensive, but we're ramping, baby. 5/5 a trample. If you tap a permanent for mana, it produces 3 times as much of that mana instead. My goal here is to hopefully just mass manipulation and take someone's whole board, and we'll thank them afterwards. We're kind people. We're not the kind of people who's just not going to say thank you. But we have a lot of really neat synergies here that I think will be a lot of fun. Who knows if the deck's good or not, but we're going to try it out, but I am pumped to try this one. Land base wise, nothing too crazy here. Playset of breeding pools, 2 of each of the castles, and I'm not the best mana person here, so these numbers could be off. And if you have a better mana base, I'd love to hear about it. 4 tempo, then we've got some basics and a Fable Passage. So that's deck number 1. Let's go ahead and go to deck number 2. So deck number 2 here we have Nayad Giants. You want to talk a little bit of spice? Nayad Giants. Same thing in this deck. We're going to start off here with 4 Arboreal Grazer. We're playing 28 lands once again because, again, you want to have a very high land count when you're playing these Grazers to make sure you're hitting that second land and third. So we have that in the 1-drop slot to hopefully accelerate us into turn 2 3-mana plays here. In the 3-mana slot, we have 2 Vanishing Lights, which I know seems a little bit weird. Maybe that's like, this would be the first cut if I were to make cuts for the deck. But just a catch-all answer for anybody who played Standard before, this card kind of just hits anything you need it to and can be a good card for you. The first Ironian game is also with the 3-mana slot. Another one where these 2 cards here are definitely like my kind of flex cards on this list and could be something else. But for anyone who hasn't seen this, 3-mana Saga here, turn 1, make a 1/1. Saga 2, put 3 1/1 counters on target creature you control. And with some of the giants you have in this list, you're going to make some big giants really fast. Turn 3, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, draw 2 cards. Again, we're going to be having a lot of big creatures here in this deck that can trigger this. Domri giving a plus to this. Make sure your Bone Crusher Giant hit it. Make sure Tectonic Giant hit that if you have it. Even if these things aren't technically creatures yet, they should still count. Lastly, create a gold token. That's just for the flavor there. We're playing 2 Kloithos, God of Destiny. I think even if it's not a creature, it's still going to be okay because exiling things from graveyard with all the escape cards running around should be pretty good. Not really sure, but we're going to try it out again. This is something we're just testing out and trying to see something different here. Domri here. I've always loved Domri in all my Gruul lists. For anyone who's watched my videos, you know how much I like that card. Bone Crusher Giant, if you're playing red, you're probably playing Bone Crusher. It's just a staple of the format at this point. We have a 4 of Tectonic Giant, which I personally love this card. Maybe I'll be proved wrong that this is not good, but I am going to try and jam it. 4 mana, 3/4, okay stats, nothing amazing, but not too bad. When this attacks or becomes a target of a spell, it either deals 3 damage to each opponent, or you exile the top 2 cards of your library, choose one of them, until the end of your next turn, you may play that card. So if they target this with single removal, you're still dealing 3 damage to them, or you're being able to draw a card there. This thing just kind of gets you value no matter what it does, unless somebody just has a board wipe to follow it up with next turn. You're going to do some good stuff with Tectonic Giant here. 5-drop slot here, we have 2 Perforos, the Bronze-Blooded. Perforos is probably one of my least favorite of the gods. However, I feel like that Devotion is just really easy to turn on with this thing. And we have some big creatures we're about to talk about here, and giving them haste is kind of nuts. So with this here, if your Devotion is less than 5, it isn't a creature. But if you do have more of that Devotion, 7/6 for 5 is pretty good. The reason we're going Naya here is because we get to play a full play set of Realm Cloak Giants. This is a one-sided board wipe in this deck, and that's what makes this insane. Other than killing your Ironian token if you still have it, or your Arboreal Grazer, this isn't killing anything in the deck because these are indestructible if they're not giants. It's just kind of nuts. So you have just a one-sided board wipe here on your side, and then later, especially if Perforos out, you get a possible 7/7 Vigilance Haste. Insane. And lastly, Beanstalk Giant, being able to fix that mana a little bit, ramp up a little bit faster, and then again, with all the lands we have here, just make this a hasty big Beanstalk Giant if we can. This deck may not be anything, but we're playing some good cards on their face already, I believe, and I think the Giant Synergy may be worth looking into. I'm not sure if it's good enough or not, but we're going to try it out in Standard and see how it goes. Land base here, again, we got plenty of temples now, so we're playing a lot of temples here on one, which could be awkward with the Arboreal Grazer, but I feel like we run such a big amount of forest, we have the Stomping Grounds here, that we should have a way to get that into play at turn 1 and then drop a temple with it also to scry. Not too bad. Let's go ahead, let's move deck number 3. So before we start deck number 3, any of you Devotion fans, don't worry, I've not forgot about you. I'm saving all those. We're going to hit them back to back to back to back to back at the very end. We got all colors represented here. I have a Devotion deck for every single color. So here we have Boros Knights. Boros Knights was already a thing that was in Standard the last time, and I'll be honest, I just wanted a reason to be able to play Haktos because I think this card may be busted. We're going to try that out. So here at Boros Knights, nothing you haven't seen before. The 1-drop package, we have the Fervent Champions and the Venerable Knights. We're also playing 2 of the Shadow Spirit here now, which I think is another just really good equipment. 1 mana, equipped creature gets +1/+1, has Trample and Lifelink. Pay 1 mana permanents. Your opponent's control lose hexproof and indestructible in a turn. So we have a way to kill gods if we have the Embercleave out and stuff like that. This thing's pretty sweet, and it's just like cheap, decent equipment already. Again, we have the 8 1-drops here. We have Worthy Knights to be able to make a wide board to help this Embercleave come out a little bit faster. We have the Inspired Veteran to pump the whole board here. 2 of Gideon Blackblade. I know it's a card that's not seeing a lot of Standard play, but I think in a list like this, is having to be an indestructible threat that can attack through things is pretty good, and being able to plus up on your guys and make them a little bit more powerful is good. And then the Exile clause of this, with the gods running around, probably more relevant than it was in past Standards. Again, 4 Bone Crusher Giant. You know, we're playing red, we're playing Bone Crusher. That's just a thing. 2 Acclaimed Contender here to kind of help find that Embercleave. Lastly, Haktos the Unscarred. I want to try this card. I want to see if it's for real or not. It's just such a funny, weird card that I feel like is going to cause me a lot of pain in some points, but also just be really neat to play in other ones. So it's not a knight or anything, but it does fit in this color pie. So we kind of just get to play an already existing pretty decent deck as it is, and then throw this in there. 4 Integrity Intervention, just a really good combat trick that honestly gets me about every time I play against it. It's one of those, like, it's always been solid, but you just never really think of it. And both sides of this are usually pretty relevant. Lastly, 4 Ember Cleave. Believe in the cleave, baby. Believe in the cleave. Land base for this, a lot more simple than the other ones. We have the 4 of Tournament Grounds, 4 Temple, 4 Sacred Foundry, and some basics. Only running 24 lands on this one. Our curve minus this, and this is pretty low, so I think that's okay. Let's go ahead, hit up deck number 4. Alright, so for all you control mages out there, deck number 4, we have some Esper control with some of these brand new cards, and we're trying out quite a few new things in this one to see if it works okay. Maybe it's good, maybe it's not. That's the story of this whole video, we'll see. So we're going to start off here. We have 2 of Erebos' Intervention. Choose one. Target creature gets -X, on end of turn. You gain X life. Just a scalable removal spell, and giving things minus and minus gets really around like indestructible and things of that nature, which is good. And also been able to exile some cards from graveyard with all the escape stuff going on. Probably not too bad. Place out a Quench here, just good early removal, especially for some of these 3-drops running around, which are problematic. We have Thought Erasure, which is still just a solid card to pick the hand apart and look at what they're playing. Of all the intervention, I actually think Thassa's Intervention is probably the best one. So 2 of these here, which you can maybe go up. Maybe I can be playing more of these, but having the ability to either draw cards or counter seems really, really nice. At 3-drop slot, still Little Teferi, still causing a pain in this format, still being a thing. He's a good card. Otakaya, still a solid answer to a lot of things, do some damage, gain some life. A playset of Sinister Sabotage. Being Esper, I would rather not risk going to the Absorb route. We already have some ways to gain life with Erebos' Intervention and Otakaya, so I don't think the life gain is quite as important as it was here before. So I'm going Sinister Sabotage because Surveil is still a pretty good thing that gets underlooked a lot of times. Kaya's Wrath with the board wipe, still just an easy, good card there to have. The mana can be a little bit troublesome for him sometimes, but it's a solid card that you want to have on your side. Finally, let's look at the top slot because these are almost all new. We have 1 Liliana at the 6 mana slot here. This may not be good enough, honestly, but we're going to try it out. We are trying out 2 Ashiok Nightmare Muse, try out 2 of the new Ashiok, making blockers that can attack and defend and be able to get that trigger off every turn is pretty good. This gives the blue-black synergy colors to be able to take care of enchantments, which you usually can't do if you don't have the white splash like we do now. But then just another way to deal with enchantments now with Ashiok is good. And then if we get to that ultimate, getting 3 cards up with all the things we've done with it should be pretty decent. I'm trying out 3 Dreamcaller. Don't know if this one's going to be even playable, but I want to try it out because it seems interesting to me. So it's a 5 mana, 3/5 flying lifelink. That's okay stats on its own. Again, just another way to gain life in the deck. When you draw a card, it gets +1/+0 to end a turn. So every turn, this will be a 4/5 when it attacks, which is notable. Whenever Dreamcaller attacks, draw a card. So it's really going to be like a 5/5 because you've drawn a card beginning of your upkeep on your draw step, and then you're getting 1 when it attacks. So you're drawing 2 cards a turn that way, and then just being able to discard a card to give it hexproof. It's going to be really hard to remove this thing. I suspect this may kind of fly under the radar for a lot of people, but this may be pretty decent in standard. And lastly, we got to try one of Keyword Best to See God. 7 mana Saga is a lot of mana, I know, but you're making 8/8 Kraken. You're tapping everything down so it can attack through the next turn, and then you just gain control of any permanent you want. That can be a land too if you want to just really, really mess with them. Don't think at turn 7, 8, 9, you're probably not going to mess with the lands, but you never know. But I think this deck actually looks like a lot of fun for a controlled deck. Don't know if it's, I'm a broken record saying I don't know if it's good enough or not, but this is what my head brewed up, and this is what we got, so deal with it. Lands, we got 26 lands. Again, nothing too crazy here in the mana base, I think. We're playing 12 shock lands, so that hurts a little bit, but we do have a lot of ways to gain life. Think this deck's going to work okay. We'll test it out and see how it does. Lastly, in the non-devotion decks here, we have Mardu Hushbringer. This is a deck I'm really not sure about. My buddy Halo Spades and I eventually had this idea beforehand to make this deck, and I started working around with it. I'm not sure if it's going to be good at all, but I'm going to show you the strategy anyway, and we'll just try it out and see if it works at some point. This was my most voted deck on Twitter when I ran a poll seeing what we want to play. Most people voted for Mardu Hushbringer, so this is what I've got. For those, basically what the whole synergy of this deck is you have your playset of Hushbringer here, flying lifelink for 1/2 for 2 mana. Creatures in the battlefield don't cause abilities to trigger. I did a Scryfall search. There are only 2 cards in standard that have abilities we wouldn't want to trigger for us, but we're going to try to abuse them anyway. So we're playing a playset of Clackbridge Troll. So that way, with Hushbringer down, if it's still alive, this is just an 8/8 with haste and trample for 5 mana. They won't get the goat tokens, and they still get the combat upkeep kind of stuff. So you just have all this versatility with this card that I think is kind of cool. And then we also have Kroxa, Titan of Death's Hunger. Again, Titans fan 920. We got to have the Titans. So this will come down as a 2-mana 6/6 that when it enters the battlefield or attacks, each opponent discards a card, and then they may get 3 damage dealt to them. The idea is there. Honestly, I don't think this deck is going to be good, but we're playing some sweet cards in it, so maybe just enough good cards to make this work. We're playing a playset of Hushbringer Knight, the 1-drop slot here. It's a way to draw cards if you have a 3 mana, and it's just a solid 1/1 Death Toucher for 1. Playset of Stormcrest Crusader, just pinging for a little bit of extra damage, get some extra card draw for you. Order of Midnight, being able to bring back things like Croxa if you need a discard spell and things like that is actually pretty versatile. So I think Order of Midnight could be a unsung hero in this deck. Get your Hushbringer back if you need to, that sort of thing. Murder Strider, Bonecrusher Giant, just solid cards on their own. Believe in the Cleave, baby. And then 2 Tajik, Legion's End. Maybe doesn't need to be in here. Maybe isn't good. But I figure if I can attack with my Hushbringer and mentor it, get a little bit bigger, make it a little bit more harder to remove, then why not? So that is Mardu Hushbringer. Again, don't know if this is actually going to be a real deck whatsoever. This is the one I have the least amount of faith in. But if someone is also inspired to take it out and try it, go for it. So now that we're here at the Devotion decks, we're going to start off with the number 1 Devotion deck that's probably everybody wants to see. This is the main, when you think of Devotion and Devotion decks in past Standard. Mono Black is one. We got Gary, the boys, back with us. So let's take a look at Mono Black Devotion and Theros Standard. And then 1-drop slot here, we have a playset of Knight of the Ebon Legion, just one of the best 1-drop cards in Standard right now. And again, 4 Hushbringer Knight, it's a way to draw cards later in the game and be a 1/1 Death Toucher to start off with. With the 2-drop slot, we have 2 Tyramit, Chosen from Death. This is double black, 2 and a star for his power. His toughness is equal to your devotion in black. So at the very least, he's a 2/2, but a lot of times he can be more than that. You can pay 2, exile up to 2 target creatures from 2 target cards from graveyard. You gain 1 life for each creature exiled this way. So you have some built-in graveyard hate there, which is nice. And this is a 2-power attacker that has a pretty big butt sometimes just to hold the line down. Not too bad. We're playing a playset of Arc Spindler, making people exile a card from their hand, get a double black pip for devotion. We're not playing any of the devotion makers like the artifact there. Would love to have Nick those back in the set and really make this deck go off, but I don't think it's necessary either to make it work. So we're playing Arc Spindler there for the double black. Here, 3-drop slot, of course, triple black. We have Ayara, First of the Luckwing. Whenever Ayara or another black creature enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So you're going to see, we're just going to be doing a lot of ping in this deck and just draining life and gaining it that way. Not too bad. You can sack a creature and draw a card. Aria is pretty sweet. We have a playset of Murder Strider, just another solid creature and spell in the format that we need to have. 2 of Dragon of the Underworld. We'll see if this card is real or not, because if it doesn't work in this deck, it's not going to work in anything. But I do think with the devotion we have in this deck that a lot of times this is going to be a double black removal spell to kill a creature, and that's pretty good. 2 of Erebos, black-carded. You know, if this has been a legendary, you don't want to play too many of them. I think you're going to get the devotion part of this off very easily, so hopefully this is just a 4-mana 5/6 indestructible. The triggers are pretty good for the deck. You have built-in removal for it, which is really good. I have a lot of faith in this one actually and think it's going to be okay. At the 4-drop slot, 2 Rankle. You get a double black pip here with a solid flying threat that's already good in Standard anyway. We're playing 3 of Deathless Knight, which looks kind of funny. Before it's still a 4-mana haste, it gives you 4 ticks of devotion. And we have different ways of bringing this back from the graveyard to our hand and casting it again if we need to. Finally, we got a whole playset of Gary, baby. We can't have mono black devotion, not have Gary coming around. Great merch is going to show people who wasn't in Theros Standard last time why it's good. And I'm really looking forward to hopefully getting some big drains on people with this. And you just look like, say they use removal on some of the stuff. We just go Aria into Deathless Knight into Gary. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 damage. And you'll see there's 57 cards in this main board. That's because we don't, on Aether Hub, we don't have it updated all the way yet, but Shepherd of Nightmare is also going to be a 3 of in this deck, which you'll see right here. So this means that if we get board wiped in a turn, all this stuff still comes back, same pips of devotion and everything, they're just 1/1s now, but having these things all trigger again, you get your Gary triggers again, you just make this in a way where it's just so brutal for the opponent. You can even Aria sacrifice that when it comes in. You can sacrifice your Gary when it comes on the battlefield if you had that card out, and you get 2 Gary triggers in a row. So there's some pretty mean stuff we can do here. Mana's pretty simple. 2 Witch's Cottage, just in case we want to put a target creature card on from a graveyard on top of the library. Be able to get that back. For the most part, we're just playing swamps and castles. Nothing big here. So that's Mono Black Devotion. Of all the Devotion decks, I think this is one I'm the most excited about the most. You be the judge. Let's look at another one. So next up on the Devotion train, we have Mono Green Devotion. This one was pretty easy to make because it's almost an existing deck in Standard as it is. So we didn't really have too many things to add here. Starting off with some Arboreal Grazers and Pel Collector. Playing 26 lands, which is a little bit low for an Arboreal Grazer deck, but I think it's enough to make this work. 2-drop slot here, 2 Surfarian, just a double green ticker that is able to pump things up. You've seen when this card gets counters on for things like Vivian, being able to really pump up your squad attack. It's kind of crazy. 4 to Voracious Hydra here. Just a way to be able to fight things early if you need to, get counters and double it later on. Really just get big creatures in the... I mean, this whole thing, you're just stomping with mono green. Nothing fancy, we're just stomping. 3 Yorvo here, would love to play 4, but being legendary, I can't really afford to play 4 of them. Some Questing Beast here in the main. A Questing Beast, just, you know it's a good card. Nothing crazy there. Some Vivian. The only new card we're playing from the new set is 2 Nalia Keenite. I think this is the worst of all the gods here. I said Perforce may have been, but I think Nalia is. However, just look at how easy the Green Devotion is to fire off in this deck. I really think this will be live a lot of times. So, making your green creatures cost less is pretty good. Being able to pay the 3 if you really need to have that mana sink there to do so isn't too bad. That's not a thing I'm going to be wanting to do all the time, but it is something that helps now and then for flooding late game. Vivian, Powerhouse. Nissa Who Shakes the World, Powerhouse. Cavalier of Thorns, just another powerful card. And we have a lot of big creatures here, so hopefully getting off a big Great Henge won't be too hard either. So I have some faith that this is going to be pretty good here. Is it? We'll see. But I like this card a lot, this deck a lot. Lands, really simple here. We got the forests, we got the castles. Nothing crazy. So now we're here to Mono White Devotion. Obviously, everybody knows how hard of a time White gets in Standard, but I actually think it got quite a few toys for this deck here. So we'll see all the new things we have to play in Mono White Devotion, and maybe it has a better chance than we would want to give it credit for. Starting off the 1-drop slot, 4 Giant Killer, just a solid removal spell. The chop down is really why we're playing this, but we also get a 1/2 blocker for 1 if we need, and being able to tap things down can be really annoying to play against on the other side. Playing a playset of All Seed of Life's Bounty. This is a 1/1 life link. You can pay 1 and sack it to give a target creature enchantment you control protection from the color of your choice. So kind of God's Willing on a stick here is pretty nice. I'm curious to see how this card does, but it's just a solid 1/1 for 1 that we get, and I think this the ability on the bottom of it could be game changing. Who knows? 2-drop slot. We're playing 3 of Daxos, Blessed by the Sun. 2 toughness equal to your power or your devotion. Whenever another creature you control enters the battlefield or dies, you gain 1 life. So we're planning to gain a lot of life in this deck really fast. With things like Heliod, you'll see how these can possibly just kind of go crazy. 4 Johnny's Pride Mate, again, something that's a Life Matters card and really gets big. We're playing some Glass Casket and Vanishing Light in the deck. We get some built-in removal that White usually wouldn't have here, but this also helps your devotion because it stays on the battlefield, which is good. 2 of Tomik. That's the white, double pip for your White Devotion. Then it's a flyer. Their Nisses Can't Work is pretty good. Not too bad there. Linden, maybe she finally gets to see some real play now. A 3-mana 3/3 of Vigilance. Whenever a white creature you control attacks, you gain 1 life. So maybe Linden can kind of pop off here and do a good job of doing some things. We play these little weaker creatures here, but we do have Taranika, a Crow, and Veteran. 2 and a white, or 2 and double white, or 1 and 2 white, sorry, words are hard. 3/3 Vigilance, not too bad. Whenever it attacks, it basically makes a 4/4 Gideon, is what it seems to be. So when you're attacking this, you're attacking for 7 if you have another creature every time. Not too shabby, and I'm actually really impressed for that for White. We have some Johnnies here to help us gain some life and be able to just make some tokens. And as you see with this deck, you have all this ability to just kind of go crazy and make a big board that gets big really fast. Reverent Hoplite at the 5-drop slot, just a 1/2 for 5, but making a creature token for all your white human creatures, or all your devotion. Not too bad. Words are hard. I'm tired. It's been a long day. And then finally, at the very top of the curve here, 2 elf God Eternal Ketcha. Every time we're casting even one of these little 1/1s here, we're making a 4/4 Black Zombie Warrior. I think this deck actually may have some potential. I know Mono White's something you wouldn't think would be good, but we have a pretty powerful suite of creatures here. We have some pretty neat synergy if we start popping off a gain of life, and I'm pretty excited to see how this one actually performs. Land base, castles, plains, nothing crazy. Alright, so we got 2 more decks to go here. Second to last, we have Mono Blue Devotion. We're going to start off here in the 1-drop slot, just 2 of Witching Well. Witching Well, I want to start the game off, just have something down that's probably not going to get it removed. It can always be a pretty constant pip of devotion. If we need to draw cards later with it, we can. But otherwise, just scrying to make sure we start these hands off pretty nice and smooth, pretty good. We have a playset of Hypnotic Sprite, been able to counter things early on and be a double pip flyer for your devotion here for a 2/1. Not the worst in the world. Kind of pulling double duty here with the spells is really nice with this thing. Essence Capture, we're going to be countering some spells here with this as well. It's double blue, which doesn't hurt us because we're just a mono blue deck anyways. We're playing a full 4 of Thassa's Intervention here. Really want to be able to just draw cards and look at them with this deck, and I think being able to do that and counter stuff early on is not too shabby. We're playing a full play set of Gatwick here. We want to be able to draw cards with this. We get double or triple pip on our devotion, I know usually I don't want to play a full play set of legendary cards, but I think Gadwick is here and a good inclusion. Brazen Bar, we all know how good this card is. It's a good, Petty Theft's a great spell, and then being able to just have the double pips of Devotion with Brazen Bar on the creature side, not too bad. One that may surprise y'all, I talked about this in my top 10 video before, Nadir Kraken. I think this is a good card. It's a 3 mana 2/3 that every turn you draw a card. You may pay 1, put a 1/1 counter on it, and create a token. So I want to just get that board wide and make this thing big, and again, just help that Devotion out with the 2 blue pips is pretty good. We're playing a 3 of Calife, Beloved of the Sea. This one already has a 3-butt, which is nice. And getting that power to grow, this thing could actually probably be pretty strong. And that bottom part is actually really nice too. Creatures and enchantments you control have spells your opponents cast to target this permanent costs 1 more to cast. This could really get a board wide pretty quick with the Nadir. And if they don't have a board wipe for it, this is all going to be pretty hard to answer. So I actually really like this card in this deck. Muyang Ling gets some love here. Just a Planeswalker. Makes a blocker if it needs to. Just kind of nurse the creatures on the other end there. 2 Devotion Force there. 3 of Thoughts of Deep Dwelling. I think we're going to have this turned on relatively easy too. We have a lot of big blue mana caustic cards here. And then finally, 2 of Ashiok's Erasure. Anybody who's played Mono Blue, you know how much of a problem stuff like Shifting Ceratops is. Well, this card gets rid of it for the whole game if they don't remove it. And it also stays on the battlefield and provides 2 things of Devotion, so it has some extra versatility there. I think Erasure in a Devotion deck is actually a pretty sneaky one because a lot of times they're not going to expect you to be flashing something in that can counter their stuff, and then having the Devotion to stay back and buff the team up's pretty good also. Again, lands, castles, islands, nothing big here. One more deck to go. Let's look at Mono Red Devotion. Alright, so last deck of the day here, Mono Red Devotion. Let's get into it. Playset of Scorch Spitter at the 1-drop slot is the only 1-drop we have. Not a lot of 1-drops I really wanted to play in here, but Scorch Spitter just kind of doing 2 damage a turn is already pretty good on its own anyway there. At the 2-drop slot here, we have Ember Hauler. We got the red pips for Devotion, and still just a creature that can sacrifice, or we can sacrifice to deal 2 damage to things like Gilded Goose or things on the other side we want to get rid of. Bone Crusher Giant, play in red, nothing crazy there. Slaying Fire here may seem weird, but we're always going to have Adamant online because we're just a red deck only. So this is essentially going to be 3 mana to do 4 damage to any target. Not too bad. At the 3-drop slot, we're also playing some Chandra, Acolyte of Flame, being able to get some of those burn spells back if we need them. We can get some 1/1 elementals going out and just causing some damage for us there. Just Chandra is just a hard thing to deal with for some decks there, and I want to try this out here. Still 2 pips of Devotion if we need it. Trying out a whole playset of Phoenix of Ash. This may not fit in this deck very well. It's still a 3 mana card that provides 2 pips of Devotion. Flying Haste, and then bring it back from Escape with some counters on there. This could be good. Maybe it's not. Who knows? Same with Tectonic Giant. I'm going to play Tectonic Giant. That's who I am as a person at this point. I've just accepted that. Torben, we're playing 3 of Torben because this is probably the best of all the big cards. This Torben makes all these things go crazy. Makes your Chandra Acolyte of Flames do a lot of damage. All of a sudden your Scorch Spitter do a lot of damage. I just love Torben in this deck and in general. 3 Annex, Hardened of the Forge. Just a 3-drop. Its power is equal to your Devotion red with 3 toughness. So again, that 3 toughness is a pretty good butt to have. And this is pseudo board wipe protection here, because whenever a creature you control dies, create a 1/1 Satyr token creature with this creature can't block. And then if the creature had 4 power or greater, create 2 tokens. So I really think there's going to be a lot of situations where we're having a creature get removed and we're just making tokens and still swinging in. And with things like Torben, if they don't get removed, then those tokens are still doing 3 damage a turn. So that's all kind of like Magical Christmas Land. But I do think Annex is probably one of the best creatures for Devotion enablement that we have here in the set. And finally, Perforos. Seems like it's going to be activated pretty easy. 7/6 indestructible, not too shabby. So of all these Devotion decks, I'm excited to try them all, and I think they all kind of have some legs. We'll see if they're actually good or not. So that's all we got. I hope you guys enjoyed. I really enjoy doing this. If you want to make fun of my brews, make fun of them if you want. It's kind of hard to brew all these kind of things off the top of your head, but I do this for y'all because I love you, and I really do appreciate the discussion we have about it and all the support. Don't forget, I am streaming live for the first time ever. For the other early access streamer event, January 15th, I'll be starting right at 11 a.m. when the thing goes live. All these decks we just talked about here, we're probably going to take them for a spin, see how it goes. If anybody has other decks they want to try out, come over to Twitch, we'll try it out. Twitch.tv/TitansFan920. Thank you all for the support. Love y'all. Let's get in some standard. Let's go.